As Jordan is walking up, we are going to call this meeting to order for February 12th, 2026. Let the record show that all 5 board directors are present. And we will start, I'm way at the bottom here, with the land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge that the sacred land that we live and learn on today belongs to the Takelma, Shasta, Modoc, Klamath, and Umpqua peoples. We honor and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we now call the United States. We recognize the Native American people's continuing connection to the land, place, waters, and community. We pay our respects to their cultures, country, elders, past, present, and emerging.
All right, thank you, Alice. Okay, so next we have the adoption of the agenda. So I will take a motion at this time unless anybody would make any amendments.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And next we have the adoption of the consent agenda. So as always, it's rather lengthy. We have the approval of minutes from our previous work session and regular session, personnel report, enrollment report. There is a reapproval of the ASD flexible spending plan. That's our health insurance for staff. Multiple policy updates, first read, and only one second read, which means that that policy is being approved, and that is the immunization, sports participation, concussion policy, which we had pulled and had a couple of questions answered. So that is now going to be finalized. So unless there are any specific questions, I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
You're going to let the slow one go first. Thank you. I move that we accept the consent agenda.
A second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay. So we will move on to item 5, which is our monthly school presentation. This month we have Steve Retzlaff with us to present about Ashland Middle School. Thank you, Principal Retzlaff.
An indication that you could hear me, but maybe not. Yeah. Okay, how about now? There's a little bit of an echo. Is that a problem for anybody other than just me? Okay. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Hattrick. He told me that in the interest and fairness to those who've gone before me, that I'll have 65 minutes tonight for the presentation. So I'm excited about that, and I appreciate the generosity and time for Ashland Middle School. So this is the Ashland Middle School highlights presentation that I think most of you have been looking forward to. We're going to go into some demographics, some interesting demographic information. So as I believe is one of the things that the board was hoping to understand. We have 14% of our students have IEPs, 8% with 504 plans, which is, I'll just add that together for you. That's 23%, Dr. Hattrick? I'm going to get to interactive tonight. What do you think, 22 or 23? I'm agreeing with you. You're going to go with yes? Yeah. Okay. So that's 22%, right? Rebecca, is that right? Okay. So 22%, which is nearly 1 out of 4, right? 1 out of 5 students at the middle school has either an IEP or a 504 plan. That's some type of plan that includes accommodations for students. So that's a pretty high percentage when you think about it as far as the needs, and I think it's really healthy and important thing to understand about our schools. I don't know how that compares necessarily to the others, but I wanted to highlight that for you as well. 2% of our students are English language learners, and 8% of our students are talented and gifted students at Ashland Middle School. 8% of our students are Asian, 6% are Black or African American, 1% Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, so a really small population there. 79% are white, 17% Hispanic, and 14% multi-race. One of the things I want to kind of highlight on, we'll do it for you, Jordan, is the decline in enrollment since your dad left. That's been something that's really picked up in the last number of years. I think when I started 21 years ago, the enrollment was in the mid 700s at Ashland Middle School. And it did start to drop off, but stabilized in the 600s for quite a while. But in the last number of years and looking forward, the enrollment is getting dramatically smaller. So in 25, 26, this year, we have a total, boy, this is really hard to see, 463 students, which is 10 more than what was projected at Ashland Middle School when we were looking at last year's enrollment. But that's, I think, 56 students fewer than what we had last year, just as an indicator. The big drop really happened around the time of the pandemic. Next year, we're projecting 448 students, which is going to be 19 more than what we were projecting when we were rolling up our numbers from a couple of years ago. But next year, we're going to see, or in 2 years, excuse me, we'll see this decline in enrollment sort of level out, and then this starts to be become a stable number if you're looking at the cohorts that are coming up from the elementaries in those grades. And the middle school is going to be just a little over 401, right, which is 3 over what we were projecting last year. So while the numbers are slightly higher this year and next year, 3 years out, we're going to be pretty close to what the projections were or what we were looking at when we were rolling forward those cohorts. So that's a very real problem that the middle school is facing. This is just a slide that gives you a little bit of an overview of what those enrollment numbers look like by grade level, so you can kind of see the cohorts. And so you can see that our cohorts in 6th grade are getting smaller and smaller as you look at those across the years, and we're graduating those larger cohorts. So last year, for example, we had 193 8th graders that came up to the high school. This year, we'll only have 157 students. So this decline in enrollment, of course, as it works its way through the middle school, is going to become something that the high school is going to need to work on as well, or wrestle with as well. Restructuring that we implemented for this year from last year, you may all be aware of this, but just in case, who thinks they are? Should we do a little fun game on what the restructuring was? Or do you want me just to share out? Does anybody feel like they're familiar? I know you're looking, Russell, that's going to give you a little bit of an advantage, okay, at the slide that you all can see much better than me. So we removed the homeroom, the 4th homeroom from our 6th grade teams. We used to have 3 6th grade teachers and a 4th homeroom teacher to keep our homeroom caseload smaller. 6th grade for the last probably 10 or 15 years has been our larger sized cohorts, or our largest teams, but now those teams have shifted into our 7th and 8th grade. We reduced one of the 3 7th and 8th grade teams this year, so that was a pretty significant change. We used to, for years and years and years, we had 3 7th and 8th grade teams, and now we have 2 full 7th and 8th grade teams, and then a 3rd new team that's in 7th and 8th grade that's a little different, I'll talk about later, that's smaller. That's the 2-person team that you see there. And then we increased intervention supports in reading and math. That's something we wanted to do. You'll see some information around behind why we did that. And we reduced our encore offerings. I don't know if anybody's aware of that at this time, but we'll get into some of those details later as well. And we reduced EA, FTE. We went down, I think, 13 hours of EA time, which is about 2.5 EAs less to get the middle school staffing aligned a little bit more closely to the enrollment numbers and meet the district's goals around class sizes. The core FTE reductions last year, we had a half-time 7th and 8th grade math teacher reduced. We had a half-time science teacher from 7th and 8th grade reduced. We had a full-time Spanish teacher reduced. We had a half-time language arts teacher reduced and a half-time social studies teacher reduced from last year. The encore reductions, as you may know, there was an encore reduction in band, one section in band, but there was also a section a little bit less known, it seems, there was a reduction in orchestra, in a section of orchestra. There was a reduction in our physical education or PE sections, and then there was a reduction in WAM sections. So there were section reductions across the board, and we completely closed out our leadership program, which was a loss for the middle school. So we completely shut down a program that we used to have in our encore programming as well. And that's about a 1.25 FTE reduction that we did last year. So this year, that brings us to sort of what the school looks like this year. We have 2 special education classrooms, or no, sorry, wrong slide, looking at the other one. Cascades and Siskiyou teams, so those are our 2 6th grade teams. There's a language arts teacher, a math teacher, and a science social studies teacher in 6th grade. Those 6th grade teachers, those 3 teachers on each of those teams share around 80 students, roughly. The 7th and 8th grade teams, we have Alpine, Mountain, and Summit now, are our 3 teams. Alpine and Summit are the two larger teams. Those teams have about 150 students on them. We do block scheduling in our 7th and 8th grade teams. In 6th grade, I forgot to mention, we have classes are every day for 65 minutes, but we do block scheduling in 7th and 8th grade. There's math, science, Spanish, language arts, and social studies on those two larger 7th and 8th grade teams. The smaller team, the mountain team, is about 30. That we also do block scheduling on that team. And there's a math and science teacher and a language arts and social studies teacher. So they teach, there's 2 teachers working with that smaller cohort of students. We also have 2 special education resource classrooms, a full-time math resource teacher and a full-time language arts resource teacher that serve all 3 grades. We have 2 self-contained special education classrooms. And then we have the level 2 SBS program that was previously at Lincoln but moved over to the middle school this year. As you may recall, when we had a little integrity issue with the building, as I understand it. And we have an ELL program at the middle school, and then we offer 7 encore programs, Alan. We have band, orchestra, art, theater, WAMS, PE, and health, all available at the middle school. We also have a number of clubs at the middle school, and these are staff-sponsored clubs. So these are clubs that staff do because they want to provide a nurturing, welcoming, supportive school environment. They do not get paid for these clubs. These are passions or interests of their own, and they give up their own time to provide these clubs. So we have a Connections Club, a Magic the Gathering Club, a Dungeons and Dragon Club, Books and Brownies Lunchtime Club, Ramen Club, a Birding Club, a Robotics Club, and a Chess Club. And the Robotics Club is run by some parents, so we're really lucky that we have some parents that stepped up and wanted to do the Robotics Club at the middle school. We also have student unions at the middle school. We have the Asian Student Union, the Black Student Union, the Latino Student Union, Native American Student Union, a QSA, and then Eye to Eye for neurodiverse students to participate in. And then there's a number of sports at the middle school: cross country, football, volleyball, basketball, wrestling, and track. Jordan, you might recognize those. Those are the same. They've been consistent since you were a student there, I believe. And then some extracurricular activities that are available in our district that are available to middle school students. We have choir, student council, brain bowl, scavenger hunt, the fall musical, a spring play, yearbook, newspaper club, clay club, math counts, and pentagames. And so some of those are funded by the district, and others have been funded by ASF grants. So teachers maybe wrote grants to get some of those if you're wondering about who's paying for all of those. So those are all funded, so staff are getting paid for those, to do those. I want to show you a little bit of some background information on Smarter Balanced over the years at the middle school. And so we're going to look at language arts and math, and then we're going to look at some attendance information that I think is kind of interesting. So you'll notice here in the first column, you see the 2018-19 school year with our Smarter Balanced math scores. Blue is the middle school, and the orange is the state, middle schools in the state. So you can see that we had 57% of our students meeting or exceeding considered grade level prior to the pandemic. That's the last sort of full year prior to the pandemic of being assessed that was not impacted by the pandemic. And we were outpacing the state by about 16.7, what is it? Let's see, who wants to do, Deltra, you want to do the math on that one? Yeah. 18%, yep, that's what I'm going to go with too. 18%, so we're outpacing the state by 18%, and you can see in all the other years, I don't want anybody to get nervous on a cold call. I know that's something that we frown on these days in education. So, but you can see the difference is about 16%, or exactly 16% for each subsequent year coming out of the pandemic. So we did see a drop at the middle school on our math performance, as did the state. And we've been working to address that, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we've been trying to do on that, but I wanted to kind of give you that background information as a setup for some of the other things. Those are the numbers. And then here is our language arts. So we had 70% of our kids meeting or exceeding in language arts pre-pandemic. The state had 54%, so we were at a 16% gain on that one. And then in subsequent years, you can see the differences of where we went. We went up. Coming out of the pandemic, we did see a drop, but we gained on the state. So we went up to 19% gain on the state, and then 19%, and then last year we increased that gain to 22% on the state. So we are starting to recover. You can see the dip. It's level for 2 years. It has a very small rise last year, and we're hoping to continue to build on that in subsequent years. one of the things when people ask, well, why is the language arts program outperforming the math? Jordan, were you going to ask that if there was time for questions? Were you wondering it? You were? Okay, Delta,
like
both
pending
the new
answer.
board members wondering about the difference. Okay. So, lots of theories, but one of them I think that is pretty significant is the stability in our language arts teachers. For the last 15 years, we've had the same 5 language arts teachers at the middle school. They wrote their standards-based rubrics together, and they've taught from those standards-based rubrics for 15 years. And I think that has a lot to do with why we see the outperformance on the state growing. Our math teachers, unfortunately, we have 5 math teachers historically at the middle school, and 2 of those teachers, our 6th grade teachers, have been the same teachers for about 15 or 16 years. However, we've had a lot of turnover in our 7th and 8th grade math. So I'm not diminishing the quality of those teachers or anything like that, but because they're new and because they're starting over, or they're new to the profession, or they're learning the rubrics, or they're learning the curriculum, I think that's one of the factors that's holding back some of our math performance as well in that way. Also, there's been a lot of redirection on math from the state, from curriculum adoptions and things like that. So not only have we had new teachers, but those folks have had to learn new curriculum sometimes from year to year. And the math position also is one where the math teachers have the most preps. So historically, and Jordan, I hope you don't mind me, I just want to reference back. I'm pretty excited about you being on the board now for that reason. So historically, Jordan, how many preps do you think your math teachers had when you were at the middle school? A lot more. So they had like 4, maybe even 5, right? So they taught a 7th grade math, an 8th grade math, a pre-algebra, an algebra class, and they might have done an intervention class. So they might have had as many as 5 preps. Now we've been working to reduce that. So they have 3 preps. They teach a pre-algebra and an algebra class, and then they have an intervention class. So they have 3. We're going to make a change next year and focus on grade level. So we'll have a pre-algebra and an algebra teacher. And we're going to pull math off team, which is going to be a big change, is one of the things we're going to try and do to address and support our students in math. The other factor that I think has really impacted student performance coming out of the pandemic is attendance. And so you can see we have 80% of the kids at Ashland Middle School as regular attenders pre-pandemic, and 80% at the state level and I don't know if the state level is just the middle school or on the report card, or if it's the entire state, but either way, we're pacing, as you can see on this graph, even with the state the whole time. And that 80% has always been something that the middle school struggled with. We felt was low, but we had no idea how low attendance could go until we came out of the pandemic, where we started hitting these numbers at 62, 66, and 68. And you can see just last year we finally started to separate ourselves from the state, but only by 1%. We put a tremendous amount of work into attendance, and this is a huge problem, not just in our state. This is a national problem. There's a great article in the New York Times, and there's some great resources called Attendance Works that has some great information about the attendance challenges that our country are facing. But many families have confused or walked away with some lessons from the pandemic, thinking that schools may be optional or not as important. And so we are really struggling to get our kids to be at school consistently and to see a change with that attendance and try and get that turned around. But obviously, if kids are not at school, they're not getting the instruction, it's going to be difficult for those students to learn and grow. And so that's something we really need help from our community, everybody in our community in that way. One of the things that Dr. Hattrick had hoped we would talk about was the AMS School Improvement Plan. So I'm going to share a litto bit about that, Dr. Hattrick. We have a number of goals. We want to increase the number of students in language arts at grade level in language arts, trying to get them up to 68%, up from 62 is our goal. We want to increase the number of students who are at grade level in math. We're trying to get up to 50%, which is still not anywhere near adequate, but we need to start making some progress there. We are really hoping to improve attendance. We want to go from 68 to 72, so we're looking for a jump there again. We want to maintain for Dr. Atanas and the high school the on-track record or percentage for students in 9th grade coming up into the high school from the middle school. And then we're hoping to increase student engagement and school engagement for both students, families, and staff. But we're really trying to figure out how we can engage our families more and have them more involved. We had a really good site council meeting with parents and got some great feedback and strategies. So some of the strategies that we're working on for attendance and academics are We increased our reading specialist. We had a half-time reading specialist. We increased that to a full-time position this year. We also added 0.3 of a math specialist, which we've not had a math specialist working to do math intervention in past years, so that's helpful. And we've been able to really target and focus on some foundational skills through that math specialist in our intervention program. We are doing the Science of Reading PD with our high school colleagues. The teacher development group is back at Ashland Middle School, which we're really excited about. All of our math teachers, we trained a lot of math teachers in the teacher development group, and then, as I said, a number of them moved on, and so we lost that expertise, and we're currently doing that PD for our 7th and 8th grade math teachers. We're doing data teams 3 times a year where we're going around talking with our teams about the student performance data and looking at students and determining how we can support those students individually. Additional EA support in math and reading is also a priority and available this year. We have an attendance team that meets every week to focus on attendance and working on students who are trying to get kids back at school as much as we can. Monday and Friday, we're doing attendance raffles to try and sort of encourage students to come to school on those days. Monday and Fridays are our worst attended days. Anybody? Deltra, let's start with you. Oh no, Dan, we haven't done you. You haven't had a chance, I'm sorry. What day do you think is the best attended day at Ashland Middle School? And I gave you a hint, it's not Monday or Friday.
Let's say Wednesday in that case.
And you are correct. Yeah, why do you think that is?
I mean, it's buffered by, you're not taking an 8-day weekend.
Okay. Do you think it has anything to do with the length of the school day? It's the shortest school day of the week. So I don't know the answer, but I'm curious about that. So it is interesting that that is consistently and significantly the best attended day. This Wednesday we had only 29 students out, which is one of the best attendance days that we've had this year. Monday and Friday attendance raffles. I mentioned positive postcards, emails, and calls home from teachers. We're doing right now an Olympic attendance contest that Karen Pashy got going for our school, where kids are scoring points for attendance and not being tardy, and then they're going to get gold, bronze, and silver medals at the end of that contest. There's school dances, including an attend dance, which is really fun, where you get to go to the dance if you're attending school regularly. Another thing that's really important at Ashland Middle School that's been around forever is the no-cut sports and extracurricular policy, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that, but that's a big deal that we don't want to lose. And student council is new. Rebecca Garamati has worked with our dean, Kylie Peterman, and really built a strong student council program at the middle school, and the student voice has risen up, and the students have really championed, dances. Jojo, I think you were the one who got it started originally, so I have you to thank for tomorrow night. And I think next week when you're hosting a dance for the middle school students as well. So the middle school kids are dancing a lot. And strategies for 9th grade on track, safe and welcoming school environment. We have our teacher leadership council. I think our AMS team structure, where teachers really get to know their kids, even though their case count is high in 7th and 8th grade right now. It's a transitionary time, but normally it's lower. Daily homeroom, where teachers get to work with kids every day, and see the same kids every day and help set them up for success and keep track of missing assignments and do some other particular lessons like the SEL Wayfinders, social emotional lessons that we're doing. We're really pushing for Site Council and Youth Truth, a push from Site Council to get Youth Truth survey back from parents so we can get, that's our lowest participation group, but we hover around like 40 to 50% of our parents complete the survey. So we're really hoping to get more parent feedback through that survey. We've been working on secondary collaboration with the high school around math and language arts, as well as CTE pathways and forecasting a little bit more accurately placement for our 8th graders into 9th grade so that they have a greater success. And Dr. Hattrick, you said you were going to do this when I only had a few minutes, and I have been watching, but you haven't touched your nose the whole time. Yeah, because this says I've been here for 21 minutes, Rebecca. Yeah, but I'm getting close. So we have some celebrations. So our mountain team, that 2-person team that's working with students who maybe have struggled a little bit more in school, is seeing some really exciting successes. We have 12 of those students have had significant improvement in their attendance this year. So they're coming to school far more regularly. One of those students, for example, is coming 47% more than that student came last year. All but one of the students on the team has shown improvement in IXL in either math or language arts, and 2/3 of the students have improved their math and IXL scores from the beginning of the year. So we're seeing some strong gains and some growth there that we're really excited about. And this is the one that we weren't sure about, but both parents and students, we've had parents and students asking for their students to be on this team, and we've had to tell parents and students we don't have space for them. Unfortunately, that team was originally supposed to be 22 or 23 students, and there's 30 students on the team. So it's much larger than we had expected. School-wide behavior at the middle school, the referral rate is flat, but the significance behaviors are down dramatically right now. So we're hoping to finish strong this year, but that is a big change. It's been a 4-year process. Each year, the behaviors at the middle school have gotten more and more in line with what we're used to at Ashland Middle School. Coming out of the pandemic, there were a lot of risk-taking behaviors and some big mistakes that were really hurting kids. So we're really glad to see that risk-taking behavior has decreased and that the behavior is coming in line with what we're used to here in Ashland. And we have some additional interventions that I mentioned, the math and reading that we have this year, and I think I already did those numbers, so I'm not gonna skip that. Some other celebrations, attendance has increased, so we're at 72% right now of our students are regular attenders. Let's see who was paying attention earlier. Jordan, what was the attendance last year, regular attendance?
It was in the 60s.
It was?
I want to say it was 68.
It was 68. Nice job. Yep.
Pentagrams right here.
68. That's a 4%. We're on track for a 4% gain. But what's shocking and sad about that is at the beginning of January, believe it or not, this is going to be hard to believe for some of you, we were at 78% of our students as regular attenders. That's coming 90% or more. 78% of the middle school kids were at that level. And then we had this illness hit the school, and we had 30%, like 25 to 30% out for almost 6 days, an entire week, and then it carried over to the following week, and that dropped us from that 78 to 72. I know, April, you had 69.5, but I've checked it, and it was a little bit higher than that. But April left? Yeah, okay. I was just worried she was going to get uncomfortable. I wanted to show you this graph, too. I think is a great way to kind of see attendance. This dark blue line that you see, that's the daily average attendance. So when you hear that like 72% of the kids are regularly attending, and you think, well, are there 29% of the kids absent every day? No, that's not the case, right? Attendance at the middle school is in the low 90% every day, so 92, 93% of the kids are there every day. The light blue shows the days that the daily attendance is above or below the average at that point in time. So you can see that giant dip in January, and then the other one, that second most recent dip is on January 30th. Does anybody know what happened on January 30th? Deltra? You look confused, so I'm gonna call on you.
Well, she just told me I have yours.
What?
Just on the plaza.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the walkout. Yeah. So there was a walkout that day which hit the attendance, in which I'm going to take an opportunity with the walkout to share that we really struggled that day to communicate clearly with parents. I don't know if any of you heard about that, but we had a plan in place that we've done before, and we sent out a communication, and unfortunately the wrong button was pressed on that communication. The communication was supposed to go out to only the families of students who had left the campus, to let those families know that their students had left the campus. And instead, that message that their students were not at school went out to all 462 or 63 of the students enrolled. So it was a really unfortunate error. The person who made that mistake was sick to their stomach about it, and really, really upset, as you might imagine, that they had caused that kind of fear and concern for their families. And we worked really hard to try and get accurate information to families as quickly as we could, but it took much, much longer than we expected, much, much longer than it should have. And, I want to recognize that caused a lot of our families some serious distress and unnecessary distress. So that was not our finest moment at Ashland Middle School by any means. But we have already identified where the errors occurred, and I feel pretty confident that at least in the time that I'm there and the person who's responsible for sending out those messages is there, that error won't occur again. So good news on that front if something like that presents itself again. Some other celebrations is our cell phone policy. This is our 3rd year of not allowing students to have or use cell phones on the campus during the school day. So it's an ongoing struggle. I don't want to paint a picture where you might think like kids come in and all put their cell phones in their lockers and nobody takes them out. I was talking to a student today, and about something that was maybe on their phone. And I said, well, should we go get your phone from your locker? And the student just reached into their pocket and pulled out their phone, right? So they often do have them on them, but there is it used to be, you'd walk into the school in the morning and kids would be on their devices and looking at them, and they wouldn't be looking at each other or talking to each other. The kids aren't doing that anymore. The kids are having conversations. They're engaging with one another. They're doing that during lunch. They're way more, and it's made a huge difference. It's an ongoing effort to address that issue, but we've made some really great progress, and I think it's a really good celebration that's going to help our kids be more healthy in a lot of ways. And if we can get all of our families to take away their social media accounts until they're 16 or 17, that would be ultimately the best decision that our society could make. Sports and after-school activities, we talked about this one. We have 390 students so far participating in those sports and after-school activities. That does not include the clubs that teachers are running on their own, just the ones that are the sports, the extracurriculars, and those activities that are either funded by the district or teachers have gotten grants for, and our student unions, for example, right? And 333 of those are Ashland Middle School students. So sometimes people forget that all of our programs serve the families in our community. So we have students from, of course, Willow Wind and Trails, but we also have SISCU students, homeschooled students participating in those activities and clubs, which is really nice. That's 72%, though. That 333 is 72% of Ashland Middle School students are involved in at least one of those activities or clubs. And right now, that number, I would say, is probably closer to 75, because that only includes the number of students who've signed up so far for track, which doesn't start until the spring. So there'll be even more kids involved in that way. So I think that's one of our greatest strengths, and I think is significantly tied to our no-cut policy. Anybody who wants to participate gets to participate at Ashland Middle School. And then the last one, which is the most recent one, is our Math Counts team. Alan, did you hear about that one?
No.
They won the regional over the weekend, and now they're off to state.
All right.
I know, pretty exciting. You kind of ignored me on my first call out to you. You were so focused. I thought you might have been sleeping, but I looked and you had your eyes open, so I was like, well, he's not asleep. And if I knew that your names, we would have brought you in too, so I apologize. Okay?
AI-generated hologram.
Yeah. Any questions about Ashland Middle School that I can answer?
I didn't see OBOB there anywhere.
You didn't? It wasn't on one of the slides? It should have been.
Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see it.
No, I think
So-
you might be right. It should have been in there.
Anyway, I just want to call them out because
Yeah,
they won
for
the state
sure.
championship last year, so we're
No,
expecting a
OBOB
repeat
should have been in
this
there.
year.
Yeah,
We're
for
expecting a
sure.
repeat.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, all these things that are listed as clubs, is that lunchtime, or do those also happen after
Some
school?
are at lunch, some are after school. Yeah, it just depends. Yeah.
Okay. And then there was just one other, I don't want to be nitpicky at this point, but back at the beginning, you mentioned a 13-hour decrease in EA, and I just was looking for the denominator on that, if we want to put it in math terms, like what does that translate into?
We get an EA allocation based upon the number of students. We get 1 hour of EA time, and then we hire EAs at different shifts. So sometimes EAs work 4.5 hours, sometimes they work 7 hours. So that 13
So that's
hour,
per week,
it's
per day? Okay,
Per day, yeah. Yeah.
okay. Just trying to,
Yeah.
So you've got you shut down leadership program as part of the reduction, but you talked about student council. So help me.
Yeah,
I don't
great
know.
Delta,
Connect the dots.
Great question.
What?
So one of the things we've tried to do for the entire time I've been there, and this actually started with your dad, was trying to make sure that all students had an opportunity to get some leadership experience. So we've had a leadership program that is part of the Encore program, that kids would get a leadership class and learn leadership skills. So it wasn't like an elected or a program where kids ran for office or anything like that. So all kids got leadership. They all had an opportunity to develop leadership skills. The idea was that everybody had the capacity to be a leader. And we wanted to make sure everybody had that opportunity. So it's very sad that we lost that program. In the last 3 years, we also started a student council, which is a club that meets at lunch, and students apply for that. We don't do an election or like a popularity contest thing that it sometimes can divulge into. But students apply, and then they have to explain what they are hoping to do on student council, and then they are admitted to student council, or they get on student council in that way. Yeah. There's about 15, 18 kids, I think. Yeah, of course.
I have a quick question about the mountain cohort, that's the small class cohort. How are students selected to be in that program?
The teachers are looking at students who are struggling and not doing well in school on these larger teams that they think would benefit from more individualized attention. And so there's a number of different factors that go into that determination. So sometimes that's academic strengths or needs. It might be other things that are going on for those students.
Yeah, great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see it's working so well, too. I have a question for someone with a laptop, since I rushed out the door. I know when our peak enrollment at middle school, when it was about 700, we did not have full-time K-8 programs in place yet. Does anyone have the numbers from the enrollment report in front of them of how many middle school students we have at Willow, Wind, and Trails? Yeah, thank you. At some point, we'd love to see that.
And Trails did
it full-time
exist
right
during
there?
that.
Okay.
Like when I was the assistant principal, I think the first year as assistant principal, I was the administrator for Trails as well as the assistant principal at the middle school. So
Not to age myself, but I was gone by that time.
I know you were coming back with your tennis racket, I think, after school. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
I had just a couple questions. One is the 22% IEP and 504. How does that track historically? Is that larger than it has been, or?
The IEP special education numbers are actually, I was just looking at that in preparation for tonight. We were at 18% of our students with IEPs 3 years ago. So that number has started to decline.
Okay.
The state funds us, I believe, at 13%. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that right? 11%, yeah. So that's sort of the idea, is that you'd have about 11% of your population would be in that category. And those students require a little bit more funding to support them. Yeah.
And then when we're looking at some of the factors that are, I think, affecting the performance of our school for our students, attendance seems to be like the super lever, the one that will affect all of the rest of the problems if we can improve that. That tied to the Monday, Friday off pattern seems to, and the low parent engagement on the Youth Truth Survey, all that tied together makes me think that parent outreach might be the way to go, or at least a tool to help. Like, do we have plans in place for that? Or
we've done a lot of are you talking about parent outreach specifically around attendance?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have put a tremendous amount of effort into that, more last year than ever in any other time, and we saw a 2% rise in our attendance. And for whatever reason, attendance outreach is tricky. I've learned. I can't say that parents really have been welcoming of the information about their students' attendance.
Sure.
They don't seem to be too interested in hearing about how much their kids are attending school or how much school they're missing. So we're working on different approaches to try and just highlight positives when we see those students coming to school more regularly, and reaching out to those families in those cases and letting them know that we're excited that their kids are there, that we've seen this change, it's positive, and really trying to focus on it that way. So, but we've done a lot of communication. We had stuff in our newsletters. We did announcements every week around attendance, just trying to educate our students and our parents about how important it is, and how, being at school means that it's going to be, you're going to understand better what's going on. You're not going to feel lost or confused in your class. You're likely to do better on an assessment or a test or a project because you were in class getting the learning. You're going to build stronger social connections with friends and others in the community. All of those kinds of messages we've tried to help educate both our families and students with.
My last question around attendance is, has there been any tracking just of the sort of, I don't want to brand this at all, but the cohort of kids that were starting school during COVID, and how their attendance is tracked over the years, and whether that's been lower than their peers or not?
It's exactly what you're thinking.
Okay.
It's the students who, started school, who were in kindergarten, first grade, have much better attendance and much better academic skills when the pandemic started, because when the pandemic ended, if they were in kindergarten or coming into kindergarten and first grade, and those students are starting to now reach the middle school, and we are seeing a big difference as far as their habits around attending school. And then we're also seeing a pretty big correlation around their skill level being stronger.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else? Dan, I think you're maybe the only one without a question tonight, huh? Okay. Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry about my very loud cam. Okay, next up we have the finance report with Sherry Ely.
And if you'll allow me to formally introduce her as she comes to the dais, did you know that Sherry's first board meeting was a year ago today, in February?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just looked it up in my email. And she was so sad that she's only been interim for a year, and at the end of the year it'll be a year and a half, that she's decided to stay interim for an additional year. So I'm excited to announce that Sherry will be our interim business manager next year as well. So welcome again.
Thank you.
Interim becomes permanent over time, I guess.
Yeah. All right. I'm not nearly as entertaining as Principal Retzloff, and my report's not nearly as exciting either. No. Do you want to come up and do it? You're welcome to. Yes, it's very boring. So, just jumping right into the revenue, no big changes there. I'm still watching the property taxes. They did come in lower in January, so I'm not making an adjustment right now. So I'll continue watching through February and March, and then we'll just keep our eye on that and see if we need to make any adjustments in our budget for 26-27 if indeed our property taxes do come in higher. I do think we're going to have a positive uptick for our state school fund for the May catch-up for 24-25 of around $200,000 to $300,000. That's my projection right now. Looking, we have our enrollment came in a little bit higher, our transportation expenses came in a little bit higher, and our property taxes were lower than projected. So all three of those things together, I think we're going to get a little bit of a bump. I haven't included that in the projections yet, though. And then I just made a little comment about the state revenue, which came in a little bit better than what they had been anticipating. And so I'm guessing that the revenue picture is going to look a little bit better as we keep moving forward, just from some of the things that I've been hearing. So we'll keep our eyes on that. And that's not an unusual trend at the state for them to come out initially with it's really bad, and then it usually is a little bit better than what they think it's going to be. So keeping an eye on that. And then that's just the detail for you guys to look at your leisure. And then on the expense side, we're still doing really well on our expenditures. I'm keeping an eye on the IDEA fund. I do think we're going to go over, like I mentioned last month, I do think we're going to go over. We do have one employee who has been paid out of that fund who is resigning, so that'll give us some savings there, so we won't have to move so much of it back to the general fund. So keeping an eye on that. So when you look at the expenses and our revenues, it's looking like our ending fund balance is going to come in at about $3.5 million, which is about 8%. That's about an 8% ending fund balance. So keeping our fingers crossed that we don't have any other, big issues coming out of the state or anything like that, so that we can keep on a positive trend. And that's just our detail. And then on our appropriation report, so far we're looking good, keeping an eye on, especially in Fund 100, our instruction line, because it looks like we're going to be to the plus about 40,000. So I think it's going to be better than that. I put a little bit of, I'm conservative in my estimates, so if I look at just the encumbrances in the system, they are lower, and so I always like to be a little bit conservative because you never know if there's something that's going to happen as we wind down through the year. So I think we're going to be fine on our appropriations, and that in each of the fund categories, I don't see any issues at all so far. And In our special revenue, again, you'll see highlighted in yellow is the IDEA fund, where with the encumbrances that are in the system, it looks like a $194,000 negative that we're seeing in that fund. It's not going to be that. We're not going to have to move that much over to the general fund, but that's what the encumbrances in the system are saying right now. So then once we make the adjustment for the person who is leaving the district, and then just some other encumbrance clarifications and refining that we make over the year, we're not going to have to move that much to the general fund. And then the other one I highlighted in yellow is our OSU outdoor program. That funding came in about, compared to last year, it was about $30,000 less. So when the outdoor school programs were put together, they were putting them together kind of based on what they had done last year. And so when we realized that our grant was not going to be as much, we started making some adjustments. The company that helps provide that program, they gave us a discount. And then I have reached out to the Ashland Schools Foundation to see if they can help with some of the overage. We're only about $14,000 over budget. We're only going to be about $14,000 over budget in that one. So if they can help us a little bit, we have there's a fund within the district that's called a donation fund. And I've tracked that back several years to try to figure out where those donations came from and what they were for. It's a balance forward of about $35,000 that's just been carrying forward. So we can use a little bit of that too to help us with that fund. And those are the main issues that I'm seeing right now. So.
Okay, so I just have a couple of questions. One is, of course, I'm looking at the insurance, and I just want to make sure, my experience is that insurance, you pay a big blob of it at different times, and it looks like it's not going to make it through the year. But how is our insurance payments going?
The insurance fund.
Uh-huh.
That one definitely is a worry that we're keeping our eye on because our claims are coming in higher than what was projected by the actuary. So we met with the insurance committee yesterday, and so looking at the claims that we're seeing, which, there are several reasons why the claims are coming in higher. One of those is hospital expenses are higher, doctors are charging more, and because we are our own self-funded program, we can't get the same discounts that like a large insurance company that has a large pool of participants. We can't get those same discounts from the hospitals or the doctors. And so as medical costs increase, we take the brunt of that. And in some cases, because they are having to give a discount to these other insurance companies that have a larger pool, sometimes those expenses are floated down to those of us that have a small program because we are not in a pool. We are our own insurance company. So it's looking like, for me, a healthy ending fund balance in that fund would be at least $1.5 million. Right now, I'm projecting that if we're lucky, we'll have maybe $400,000 left in that fund at the end of the year. So that one's a worry. But we're working on that. We are definitely working with the insurance committee and our agent of record for the health insurance program. We're working with them on, what we can do. And so there will be more to come on that at another meeting.
Okay, one more question. It's just a little piece. It's not a big deal. I was just reading through the, it's cut off at the top. What am I looking at? I'm looking at item or line 2150, speech pathology and audiology services.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's spent, and the projection is that it's going to be double the size that it was? Or am I reading that right? So total estimate. I know this is a small thing. Actually, it's not. Why am I bringing this up? It's small. But I was curious.
Yes, so we initially, when we put the budget together, we thought we were going to be purchasing services, some of them from the ESD.
Oh,
And we ended up not doing that. And so
Okay.
we're getting a higher, if you look at the intermediate revenue, you'll see that we were projected at like 385-ish thousand or something.
Okay.
And we're looking like we're going to have about 800 and, I think, close to 900,000 that we're getting back in revenue from the ESD.
oh,
That's because we're purchasing those services ourselves instead of buying them from the ESD.
okay.
So
Okay.
that's what makes that look unusual, because when we budgeted, we thought we were going to purchase it from the ESD,
Okay.
not pay for it ourselves.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. I'm thinking about our next budget at this point, when I
Yeah.
look at our financials, and so I
Yeah.
looked at that and went, oh, I need to understand that.
Yeah, so that's definitely an adjustment. Once we start looking
Okay.
at 26, 27 budgeting, we will start looking at each of those line items and then have to make decisions about, is that something that we're going to pay for ourselves? Are we going to purchase it from the ESD?
Okay.
Or for any of these, if there are any things that are unusual compared to budget, we always look at those and then we make an adjustment in our upcoming budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. You covered a couple of mine. Will you just remind me what we pay the Board of Education for?
Oh, on the line item?
Yeah.
That's for your travel to the OSBA conventions. Audit comes out of that line item. Legal expenses come out of that line item.
Okay.
It's mainly travel, legal, audit. I think those are the main ones that
Okay.
come out of that line.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Is there a tipping point where the benefit of being our own insurance company, where we lose that because we're
Yes.
lacking the bargaining power?
Yes, to be totally transparent, yes. Yeah.
Is there any sort of discussion or planning around potentially transitioning from being our own?
Yes.
Okay.
We are very
I know
close to
that
the
there's a
tipping
lot,
point
a whole
on
lot of
that. Yeah.
factors involved.
Yep, a lot of discussions are going on around that very issue.
Okay.
Can we even afford to do this program anymore? It's a wonderful insurance program. It's been a great benefit for the district, and so if we could keep it, that would be great. But we have to look at all of our options, especially when we're looking at, expenses that are significantly exceeding the amount of revenue that we could potentially bring in, and looking at how much we'd have to raise premiums and how much employees would have to contribute. We're looking at all of that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
And is there anything in revised statutes that makes that, and I'm sorry, I don't know this, would that be a board action and policy change, or is that an operational thing?
I think it's an operational thing, but I do believe that because of the cost of the program, I feel like it's something that should be brought to the board, if for nothing else, for discussion and transparency, so the board knows what we're doing. So, yeah, because insurance is a big dollar item, whether it's your own self-funded program or whether you're outsourcing and going with another insurance company that's a private sector company. It's a big chunk of change.
We'll keep the board apprised as we have those conversations.
Is that it?
All right, thank you, Sherry.
Yes, thank you.
Sherry, I'm just so glad you're just going to stay on board. Just so
Thank you.
glad.
I appreciate that.
Muy bueno. Yes, yes.
Okay, so next we have the 2026-2027 SOESD Local Services Plan, and this will be presented by SOESD Superintendent Mark Engel Hobson.
Good evening, everybody. Superintendent Hattrick, Chair Dyson, members of the board, thank you so much for inviting me to be here tonight. There is a PowerPoint attached in board book, but I think what I would rather do is invite you to take the copy of the local service plan that I brought you and just follow along with me as I share some highlights with you. First of all, I want to point out that there really aren't significant changes in the services available in the local service plan. The way that we come up with the services that are available begins in the prior spring when the ESD cabinet has meetings with the cabinets of the 13 component school districts. And we talk about what's working, what barriers are there, and what new services would you like to see. And then in September, we started a process with inside the ESD with our administrators and in our superintendent's meetings, our curriculum directors meetings, our special ed directors meetings. And the result of all of that robust conversation was that really the services are not significantly changed. What is different about the LSP this year from prior years is the level of transparency and the way I'm trying to present the document to you. As part of the administrative restructure that happened when I became superintendent, we hired our first ever communications and partnerships coordinator. And I said to this person, Erin Green, I want the LSP to look more like an engaging children's book. Like, can you put pictures and graphics and make it something that maybe people will actually hold on to and read? And so what you're looking at in front of you is a result of Erin's work, and I appreciate the enthusiasm that she put into the project. I also want to recognize Ryan Swearingen, our Chief Human Resources Officer, who is here with me tonight representing the ESD. As the new superintendent, my aspirational vision is to be a human-centered leader who helps SOESD become a people-first organization so that the care that we extend to one another inside the agency can help us better care for and serve those outside the agency, our 13 component districts, our higher ed partners, and our community partners. So let me call your attention to some of the places in the document that are different than in previous years. If you look at page 2, labeled Our Region, we've included the 3 counties that we serve and the component districts that we serve and the student populations of each of those districts so that readers have a good idea of the diversity within our region. On page 3, we've included the names and zones of each of our board members. Ariel Bloomer is the ESD board member who represents Ashland School District. On page 4, we've provided a detailed org chart which shows all of the specifics of the administrative restructure that I mentioned earlier. On page 6, this seems minor, but I hear all the time that a lot of people really aren't sure what we do at the ESD, and so something as simple as trying to standardize our vocabulary so that within the agency, when we talk about divisions or departments or programs, that we're consistent in the way that we talk about it so that people outside of the agency hear a consistent message and better understand. On pages 9 and 10, we've previously included the architecture of the way funding for the ESD works, but new this year is we're providing the specific dollar amounts for you so that you can see exactly what our budget is, and then we included that dollar bill graphic to help you understand how the money at the ESD is spent. If you continue on page 11, for the first time ever, we've broken down our budget for you by division so that you can see for the 4 statutorily required divisions, and not only the budget, but the amount of FTE that's funded through the LSP and the amount of FTE for each of those divisions that's not funded by the LSP. Non-LSP funded positions are funded by grants or contracts that the agency hold. And then when you look at pages 13 through 21, where the services are actually provided, I want to call your attention to 2 things. The services that are in the blue-green color are the services that are available on the local service plan, where superintendents and cabinets and business managers get together and decide which services they're going to purchase each year from the ESD. The services that are listed in the white background without the blue-green are services that are provided at no charge. Many of those are provided at no charge because of the grants or contracts we hold, and others of them, like convening the 13 component district superintendents monthly, convening the curriculum directors, the SPED directors, are services that we provide just because we believe it's essential to be a good regional partner. And lastly, what I'll call your attention to is that for each service, we now have listed in the LSP the counties in which those services are available. Some services like Klamath Promise are only available for Klamath County. Some, like the Early Learning Hub that we are the backbone for, are only for Jackson and Josephine. Most services are available across the 3 counties where our 13 component districts are, but some also are available in Douglas County and in Lake County. So for each specific service, the reader can now see exactly where that service is available. So these are the ways that we've tried to make the document more engaging and more transparent, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mark, I just want to point out that this pamphlet designed by Erin Green. Erin was one of the women in the Women's Resource Center when I was there as the director at SOU. Isn't it interesting, Steve, Principal Retzlaff, how important leadership is? It just, boy, I'll tell you what, it's just like it goes in a circle and comes right back at you. Dang. Anyway, just wanted to say that. Yep.
Thank you. The booklet is great and very helpful, especially for a newbie who's learning ESD stuff. Question about you for your homeschooling enrollment tracking.
Yes.
Do online charter schools count as homeschools within your tracking?
No. Oregon law requires parents who decide to homeschool to register initially with the ESD. One time only. They do not have to register annually the way children who attend in-person school have to register. It's one time only. And then the ESD provides annually to each of our districts the names of the students who are registered for homeschool, who are on that registration list held by the ESD. And we can provide it on demand anytime a district asks for it.
Okay. So if a student transfers from in-person to an online charter school, would they be required to register with the ESD?
No.
Charter school does not count as homeschool.
That is not considered homeschool.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I was
Yes,
looking for.
of course.
Okay, I'm interested in the Grow Your Own program. Can you talk more about that? That caught my eye.
Yeah. Grow Your Own is one of the grants that we hold through the Oregon Department of Education Educator Advancement Council that provides funding for often for educational assistants or other classified staff who wish to become teachers, although there are some people who apply for scholarship funding from that program who aren't in that track. Sadly, this is one of the areas that has already faced budget reductions, and it's also on the chopping block to be eliminated at the end of this year. We won't know until the end of the legislative session whether any funding or at what level funding is left for that program for next year.
Not needed tonight, but I would look forward to, I think, next budgeting cycle, learning more about what specific services the Ashland School District uses through the ESD.
Sure.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Now, we do have to approve that this evening, right? So it would be nice to see a breakdown of what exactly we're getting for what we're putting up, right, budget-wise.
Yeah, so tonight's action is that the ESD requires 2/3 of their component districts to approve the local service plan. And then once there's a local service plan, the districts, so the operational piece is selecting the services. So I'm happy to report that at a future meeting.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay.
And I will say, I'm ready to make a motion when the board is ready to entertain one. If I get this wrong. But I move to approve the local service plan of 2027 as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we move on to recurring reports. And first, we have OSCA with, James is not here. Do we have an OSCA report this evening? Looks like nobody here. No? Okay. So we will then move on to our AEA report with Alan Porowski.
Thank you. When I walked in with the 4 pages here, I was told, cut it down. So I did. As I was watching the all-white PowerPoints with the microscopic fonts, I kind of got an urge to just read it all out of spite, but I'm not. Okay. But I will forward this to all of you because there are some thoughtful things in here about this. In this month's report, you will notice recurring concerns regarding the calendar and the conference schedule for this year. We appreciate the district's decision to gather additional feedback following conferences next week and to wait until March before presenting a calendar to the board. AHS, teachers at Ashland High School are enjoying the prematurely warm weather and the fresh opportunities to help students during the new semester. However, there is one issue that is causing difficulty: the school calendar. IXL testing, youth truth testing, the early date for parent-teacher conferences, an assembly schedule, and the inevitable tumult at the beginning of a new semester are all packed into February, causing teachers to scramble because of the overwhelming number of tasks. This is hitting the core teachers and AP teachers the hardest, who are often dropping or postponing lessons in order to accommodate testing and conference preparation. AMS, as the AMS certified staff prepares for February conferences, we are concerned about the consideration for conference dates next year, as we want to provide a meaningful engagement opportunity for families. This year's conference schedule was difficult, as they were later on the calendar than the traditional October conferences. Hosting conferences in November is not as advantageous for presenting student data at the end of our first trimester, when student habits have already been established, for better or worse. We are confident that the concerns of family and teacher feedback will support a well-informed calendar for the 26-27 school year. Ashland Connect. We've welcomed 5 new students since winter break, one of which is an OSF actor traveling all the way from New York City to make his debut in A Raisin in the Sun. His family is very thankful our district offers a program that allows flexibility for him to pursue his dreams while continuing to get a high-quality education. Our students are all doing well, and 83% of them have made considerable growth on IXL assessments between fall and winter. Students who struggle are also receiving intensive in-person math intervention services every day as an added support. We have heard questions from families about the timing of conferences and the school calendar, and we hope a full analysis of staff and family feedback can be taken into consideration. Bellevue spread messages of inclusion and compassion in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Teachers here responded to a survey about conference days and timing this year, and they were not happy with the 2 days or the time of year. It is important that we meet with families earlier in the year. The spring conferences are at a strange time too, with report cards going out 2 weeks before we meet, and we just had conferences in late November. At Hellman, we had a fabulous talent show organized by our amazing talent show team that was led by Amy Merwin. K1 walked to the Ashland Pond to extend our learning about trees and the importance in our community. We were joined by retired teachers and plenty of family support. One of our major stressors, besides the large classes and challenging configurations, is this year's calendar. The conference weeks are way too close together. Squeezing in 20 minutes of information is hard, especially for the lower grades, and having a week off is hard financially for some of our families trying to cover daycare. We are also not supporting food insecurities because some of our families depend on their 2 meals a day at school. Trails. We had our first community sing of the year. It was wonderful to gather together and sing. We are still challenged with the new conference schedule. In the past, with 3 days, we've been able to not only conference for 30 minutes with every family, but also do some planning that helps us keep our heads above water before moving forward. Walker held its annual MLK March through the streets of Ashland with our signs of peace and equity. It is always beautiful to see our school community come together to honor such an important historical legacy. Walker teachers are taking a deep breath after completing report cards this month. With blended classes and multiple subjects, elementary teachers have 2 different sets of over 60 essential skills that are evaluated and reported on. As well, Walker teachers put a lot of effort into writing thoughtful and meaningful comments for each student. It is a lot of work. Teachers would love to collaborate with leadership to streamline and improve elementary grading and conferencing to be able to report student growth and progress with more transparency and at regular intervals. And Willow Wynn students celebrated the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King with their annual Day On of Service on July 19th. Acts of service included clearing trash from Bear Creek, baking cookies for healthcare providers, and helping elderly neighbors with yard work. And then there's a page and a half of thoughtful questions about what is the purpose and thoughts behind conferences on here. So I will forward that all to you, and I'll put it in a PowerPoint next time.
Thank you, Ellen. I think it in general, obviously these get very lengthy, it would be great if you could just send that to Dr. Hattrick so that he can give it to us, and then it's much easier for us to really process it when we have it written out and can read through it all rather than just trying to
Yes.
get it all in.
I think there was a desire for the message to.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. But just,
Yes,
maybe
I
we can
agree.
find a happy
Yep.
medium that way. I love that Walker parade. I always go out just to watch that. That big old dub goes by and all the kids. That's great. All right. Thank you, Alan. Next up, we have the Student Board Representative Report with Alice and Milo.
Thank you. All right, we have lots of things going on. Leadership has done a bunch of things like candygrams on the quad, cotton candy on the quad coming up. We've had cornhole set up during lunch hours, and we're having a ESPN booth tomorrow at the basketball game. Events like these, I've noticed, have helped students adjust to the phone policy, and I've seen an increase in social interaction on our campus. Leadership is also hosting an event, hosted an event every morning of finals week, which was a few weeks ago. They gave away things such as pancakes and donuts in the morning, which encouraged kids to show up. All of our girls and boys basketball teams have games tomorrow, so if you're not doing anything, those are great things to go to. AHS Thespian team attended regionals on Saturday, and they took home multiple medals. And the ski team finally got to compete after a super challenging winter for that. And Ashland DECA takes off for state on the 22nd.
And then we celebrated Counselor Appreciation Week, which we would like to thank our counselors, Alec, Laura, and Julie, for all the hard work they put into Ashland High School every single day. The seniors finished submitting college and local scholarship applications, and I'd personally like to thank Jen Marsden, who is our college and career specialist. We had parent-teacher conferences, or we will have parent-teacher conferences next week, and we took the Youth Truth Survey last week. One of our high school math teams got second place at an SOU competition. Wrestling had their senior night, which was the heater in the theater. It was my first experience with wrestling. It was really fun. And And swim team is preparing for state, which is in Beaverton on February 21st and 22nd.
Nice. I heard the thespians got home like 2 a.m. or something. Good work. All right, thank you. Anybody have any other questions or comments? All right, then we move on to Dr. Hattrick and our superintendent report. Why not? Board report. Oh, see, you move the comment and everything is like so mixed up. Okay, board report first. Who wants to start us off? I'll just go. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm going to go to the basketball games. They're fun. I recommend it. I visited with a site coalition at Walker. Glad to see what's going on there. I attended the Ashland City Town Hall that happened in January, and another community event, Ashland Together, regarding attainable housing. I'm very cognizant of the relationship between our district and our larger community and the city. It's very important to me that we stay connected and knowledgeable with each other. Had some tutorials with our finance officer, Sherry, and our maintenance director, Steve. I am learning and I'm appreciative of their openness to teaching me about the district and how it works. So I'm really thankful for that. Wrote a little letter to our legislators encouraging the disconnection from the rolling reconnect with the federal government during this crazy legislative short session, which I've been monitoring. Unfortunately, they're not getting very much done. And let's see, the last thing was a PTO meeting at the Ashland High School where I saw Principal Thomas. So, yep, that was it.
I'll go. We had our work session, and it was great to get a deep dive on advanced math enrollments for middle school and high school. I also have been doing some legislative advocacy and calling and writing our folks. That's on my own time as my own person. But generally, it's on education bills for a short session and aligned with the Oregon School Board Association positions. I am planning on doing the in-person visits in Salem next week. And I also have been paying attention to stuff in the community. So I've been paying attention to SOU because although our direct domain is obviously K-12, the entire pre-K to 20 pipeline matters to us. We care about what happens to kids before they come into the district and after they graduate, and also what happens to students and families outside of school. So because of that, I went to the Southern Oregon Success Networking Program. They're affiliated with SOESD. They like to bring together kind of family service providers, and they have a special focus on early childhood stuff. That was great. Dr. Hattrick presented on a panel for K-12. You might talk more about that. And then also I attended that Ashland Attainable Housing Summit because one of the things they talked about was barriers to and plans for affordable housing for families. So that's what I did.
Okay, I can go next. So let's see. We started, maybe this was the first thing. Dr. Hattrick and I both went to this conference, Pipeline to Progress, Building the Healthcare Workforce, which was very interesting. So that was a conference regarding all sorts of novel collaborative efforts that we can look to in providing healthcare in our community. And there was just a really nice feel there. I mean, I know there's this sense of sort of desperation right now with so many things getting cut and budgets and everything we're looking at to the future. And so to hear all these people come forward with some really, really novel outside the box ways to look at things and ways to get through these difficult times was really nice. So, and Joseph was on one of the panels there. So that was a very interesting conference. And Dr. Hattrick and I also together went to visit the Aspire classroom earlier this month, which was really amazing. I had never been there before, so this is a bridge program for our students post-high school who need a little bit of extra support in career and college readiness. And it was just a really nice experience. We went there, we met with the students, we met with the staff, and they cooked us the most wonderful lunch, because that's part of their program there is they actually have a kitchen and learn how to do culinary work. So that was very nice. And the last thing I want to mention, as you probably know, last month was School Board Appreciation Month. And I just I'm going to show this one just showed up this evening. So this is like this nice little poster, and it's got all these handwritten notes inside. And every year we just get this wonderful outpouring of stuff from the different schools and classrooms, and it really is so amazing to see, and it's nice to get some real positive feedback from that. So that's really special, and that's it for me.
I'll just say, kind of relevant for the board to know about, City Council held their first strategic planning workshop to set the city organization's vision, and the major theme that came out of that was being more family-friendly and family-supportive. So I know that the city really looks forward to working with a lot of our families, students, and our staff to help define what that means for the city of Ashland and for Ashland as a whole.
Just like the rest of you, I'm following the legislative session and doing some email advocacy. But the main thing that we both did was the policy work group. We met again and went with the excellent help and guidance of Holly Rosser. We went through our policies and did the necessary review and updates. It's a good time. You should definitely try it out.
Thank you guys for doing that. All right, now we get to move on to Superintendent Report. Thank you.
Wow, what great reminders of how much has happened in the last month. I'm missing about half of that in my report, so I apologize. But as always, I'm going to begin with the presentation that was presented last week at Rotary for our Rotary Student of the Month. And this was what was read during that presentation. It's truly an honor to stand before you today and introduce our Ashland Rotary Student of the Month, Ashland High School senior Heaven Sugar. Heaven is one of those students who makes a school better simply by being in it. She carries an impressive 4.10 weighted GPA, serves as captain of the Ashland High School robotics team, volunteers weekly at the Ashland Public Library, and works at the Varsity Theater, all while remaining grounded, generous, and deeply connected to the people around her. What stands out most about Heaven, though, isn't just her academic achievement or leadership resume. It's the way she shows up for others. Her teachers describe her as a constant source of encouragement, a trusted peer, and a student who embodies community everywhere she goes. Whether she's helping a classmate understand a challenging statistics problem, mentoring younger students as a TA, or leading her robotics team with quiet confidence, Heaven leads with empathy, patience, and heart. One teacher shared that students often refer to Heaven as the rock they rely on to get through their day. That speaks volumes. In a world that can feel increasingly complex and uncertain, Heaven is a steady presence, someone who listens, supports, and lifts others up, all while doing so with humility and a genuine smile. Looking to the future, Heaven plans to study marine science, wildlife ecology, and environmental science, driven by a desire to combat the effects of climate change on marine life. After college, she hopes to serve with the Peace Corps, continuing her commitment to education, service, and global stewardship. Her goals reflect not only intellectual curiosity, but a deep sense of responsibility for the world beyond herself. Heaven represents what we hope for in our students, not just excellence in the classroom, but compassion and action, not just leadership in title, but leadership in character. She reminds us that true success is measured not only by what we achieve, but by how we care for others along the way. On behalf of the Ashland School District, thank you, Heaven, for the light you bring to your school and community. We are incredibly proud of you and excited for the meaningful impact you will continue to make. Please join me in congratulating Heaven Sugar, our Ashland Rotary Student of the Month. So now I've got a whole list of different announcements. The first one is very exciting to announce. I want to publicly congratulate, you may have seen this posted a few hours ago, one of our cabinet members who currently serves as Ashland School District's Director of Student Services It was announced today that she will be next year's Rogue River School District Superintendent. So April Harrison will be leaving us. Congratulations, April. She will support our process as we look for a new Director of Student Services, right? Great. Good. She still is being evaluated, so that's really a good answer. Thank you. Again, I want to once again repeat, really excited that Sherry Ely is willing to stick around yet another year to help us as we continue to navigate our financial, I don't even want to say challenges anymore, as we continue to just build out of this, and then we're really building a robust plan to transition. It'll be a longer runway to transition with a new business manager, so we'll be budgeting accordingly. And then, although official action occurred during our work session, it feels so long ago, I want to again, in our regular meeting, congratulate Dr. Francisco Lopez-Atanes for his appointment to permanent principal at Ashland High School. So, well, he's not here anymore, so that's great. As promised, this month begins the regular updates on consolidation, and that is the last time I'm going to use that word. So I've rebranded it to be transformation. We will be doing an Ashland School District transformation update every month. So up to this point, we've been talking about, I was going to say it again, transformation. It gives the impression, it gives the wrong impression. So the reason we're going to use Ashland School District transformation is because it really highlights the opportunity that Ashland School District has in front of it. So during the month of January up to now, the district leadership team has been reviewing data, including facilities, enrollment trends of the past, enrollment projections looking forward, staffing, a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, is currently underway. And this is the first opportunity really to dream. So what is our baseline? What do we currently have in place? Programs, academics, you name it. And then what don't we have that we could? So really dreaming about the Ashland of the future. We've also conducted some reviews of literature, so looking at best practices, as well as articles showing how other districts across the United States have used budget crises as an opportunity for innovation. This review will continue in February. Then in March, we're going to do similar engagement with staff. And then April through June, families will have an opportunity to complete similar surveys to begin kind of the dreaming process, what do we value in Ashland, to provide feedback. And then once feedback is gathered, we're going to begin to host those in-person listening sessions at each site. I will document that all, and it will be on our website. So every school and the district webpage has a button, so people can go and look for our documents that we've presented, and then as soon as we get all of the timeline in writing, it'll be up there as well, so people can reference it as well. So that is the current update for where we're at with the Ashland School District transformation process. Next, I want to give a quick housing project update. The exclusive negotiating agreement is still in place, and yesterday geotechnical investigations were conducted by Outlier Construction and Applied Geotechnical Engineering, as it was outlined in the ENA. Necessary step in determining the feasibility of development on the property, and I'll just continue to keep the board informed as we progress through that. As per policy, I'm informing the board of a trip that will be going out of state. AHS National Art Honor Society will be going to San Francisco from February 16th to 18th. The District Equity Committee continues to meet regularly, and currently one of the biggest projects they've been working on is a full overhaul and update of our bias incident reporting process, which is about complete, just a couple final tweaks in the online reporting, but it's been great. I'll be attending the Legislative Advocacy Day at the Capitol on Tuesday. I believe Dan, you'll be attending that as well, so that'll be great. I also want to make the board aware that, well, you're all aware of this now, that we are not presenting a 26-27 calendar tonight because we do want to continue to gather data and feedback from February conferences. We're going to look at all the factors and regional impacts so that we can present a final calendar that prioritizes student learning. So the hope will be at the next board meeting, we'll have all that data and review and a final version for you all. As you all mentioned and reminded me of, I had the honor of presenting on 3 different panels in the last month. So Pipeline to Progress, the Building a Healthcare Workforce Conference at SOU, the Coalition of Oregon School Administrators and Oregon Business Officials Conference. I don't remember where that was. It was either Eugene or Salem. And the Southern Oregon Success Network Superintendents Panel. All of those were really great opportunities just to create new partnerships that I think is going to be really valuable for Ashland School District in the future. And then coming up very soon is Classified Employee Appreciation Week. So in honor of Classified Employee Appreciation Week, which is March 2nd through 6th, I'd like to read into the record an official proclamation and ask for the board's consideration for adoption. Whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, country, and world, and whereas classified employees are the backbone of our public education system, and whereas classified employees work directly with students, educators, parents, volunteers, business partners, and community members, and whereas classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety of maintenance and buildings, the maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students, and whereas our community depends upon and trusts classified employees to serve students, and whereas classified employees with their diverse talents and true dedication nurture students throughout their school years, now therefore be it resolved that the Ashland School District Board of Directors proclaims March 2nd through 6th, 2026 to be Classified Employee Appreciation Week, and be it further resolved that the Ashland School District Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join in this observance, recognizing the dedication and hard work of these individuals. Adopted this 12th day of February 2026. So at this time, I would pause and ask the board to consider officially adopting this Classified Employee Appreciation Week proclamation before I conclude my report.
I move to approve the Classified Employee Recognition Week proclamation as stated.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you. And believe it or not, I'm not done. This is maybe my longest presentation ever. So in closing, I hope you'll just allow me to share some thoughts. So I've prepared just a few, maybe ramblings, I'm not sure, just as I've been reflecting on the times that we're living in. Board members, staff, and community. As we approach Valentine's Day, I've been reflecting on something simple but powerful: love. Not the greeting card kind, not the romantic kind, but the kind of love that shows up quietly every day in our schools. The love of a teacher who stays late to help a student understand a concept. The love of a bus driver who greets each child by name. The love of a counselor who listens without judgment. The love of a parent and a community that cares deeply about what happens in its classrooms. Public education has always reflected the broader world around us. We live in a time when conversations can feel intense, when perspectives can differ, and when people care deeply about what is being taught and how it is taught. And I want to say something clearly tonight. I believe our educators come to work each day with positive intent. They come to educate, not to divide. They come to support, not to persuade. They come to serve children, not ideologies. We may not always agree on every decision, every book, every lesson, or every perspective. That's part of living in a diverse and thoughtful community. But I truly believe that when we begin with the assumption of positive intent, we create space for productive dialogue rather than polarization. Grace matters. Grace for our teachers who are navigating complex classrooms. Grace for our administrators who balance policy, practice, and people. Grace for our board members who carry governance responsibilities with care. And grace for our families who entrust us with what matters most to them. In our schools, we're teaching more than math, reading, and science. We're modeling how to live in a community, how to disagree respectfully, how to listen carefully, and how to remain anchored in dignity. That work requires patience, it requires humility, and yes, it requires love. Love for students, love for learning, love for the idea that education remains one of the few places where young people from different backgrounds sit side by side and grow together. As superintendent, I'm proud of the professionals in this district. They show up each day focused on students. They work hard to ensure classrooms remain places of curiosity, safety, and belonging for all learners. This Valentine's season, my hope is simple: that we extend one another the benefit of doubt, that we choose conversation over assumption, that we remember we are on the same team, even when perspectives differ. At the center of this work is something steady and enduring: care for children. And that, above all, is what unites us. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Joseph. All right. Any comments or questions? Thank you for that statement. I just totally different change the subject. Just as far as the testing that was performed, I assume there's going to be a lag until we get the results, and then those will be available at some point.
Yeah, I'll just keep the board informed, yeah.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so now we move on to public comment. I have one comment, so I will read our statement before we begin. The board welcomes visitors and values public comments that support the quality of education for our students. Regular school board meetings are held in public, but per Oregon open meeting law, the board cannot engage in discussion during this time. Those wishing to speak must submit a comment form to the board secretary before the meeting begins. When called, please state your name and any organization you represent. Comments are limited to 2 minutes and must be free of abusive language, personal attacks, or references to specific staff or departments. Personnel concerns must be directed through the appropriate administrative channels. Thank you for being here and for your commitment to our schools. Okay, so we have, I hope I'm getting this right, Sojo Blakely and Maggie Hammond. Okay, come on up.
Hi, my name is Sojo Blakely. Yeah.
And my name is Maggie Hammond.
We're sophomores at Ashland High School, and we've been playing at North Mountain Park for softball fields for about 6 years. And we just wanted to bring a few issues to your guys' attention and things that we've noticed while playing softball these past few years. Okay, the first one is safety. There are no lights in the parking lot or anywhere around the fields. And so when we get home from really late softball games, it's a little bit nerve-wracking because we can't see anything. And there are a lot of people that like to sleep in our dugouts, and we can't see them. And we have also had to call the non-emergency hotline for the police station a few times just because we've felt unsafe. And we've even had people at our practice walk into our team room when it's been open, just wander in there. Yeah, there's also been a few pieces of gear stolen from our team room, as well as there's been drug paraphernalia left in our team room. One example is there was a crack pipe left. And it's just really hard to be in there when there's stuff like that.
So next is the growth and promotion of softball. So there are currently 2 fields at North Mountain Park for softball. However, we can only use one. Part of that has to do with not having enough people for 2 teams. And not having lights also affects when and how long we practice. As it gets darker now, however, it will get lighter as time goes on. And we've also had conflicts with soccer trying to use our fields for games or practices while we are trying to have practice or games. Okay, and then also because of the quality of our fields, it also kind of leaves a bad impression for younger people coming up wanting to maybe play softball or just try the sport. And seeing that we don't have a lot to offer and just, yeah. And we also have 2 girls that we know of who are in 8th grade planning on going to other schools because of our softball program and the safety issues that we have down there at the field.
Okay, and then our last kind of point, I guess, is inequalities and Title IX issues with softball versus baseball. The first issue is we don't have a permanent outfield fence. Right now, we currently are using like nets, and we even talked to our coach today, and every day before practice and games, he has to go out and check to make sure it is 6 feet tall, because if it isn't, then we can't play on those fields. The second one is a combined team room. So we currently, our team room is a team room, an equipment room for all of our gear, and a concession stand. But we are unable to use the concession stand as a concession stand because of everything that's going on with there. And it's also kind of rough because we had to build a wall in there because there is no privacy. So when we're trying to change and get ready for our softball games and everything, you can just see right in. And it was really bad. So our coach actually built us a wall. The third is baseball currently right now has a indoor hitting facility that they can use before games, for practice, for bullpens and everything. And we just don't have that. Our current batting cage is connected to the Parks and Rec center where they take their breaks and store all their tractors and everything. And yeah, we just are unable to use it. So it's kind of hard because we have to leave our school at usually 9 in the morning for a double header on Friday, which is taking away from our education, as well as we have to get down there and hit way, way, way early. Yeah, and that also kind of adds to my point about we have to share the facilities with Parks and Rec, which we don't mind, but also we gave our team room to them for their storage, which means we have less space for our gear, which is why we're in the concession stand right now. And I think that's about it. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I'm glad you know what Title IX is. And yeah, thank you. Good. I'd like to, we're not allowed to talk.
This is policy. But thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. Okay, we do take it seriously. Thank you. Okay, so next we move on to new business, and our first item is the appointment of new members to the 26-27 Budget Committee. We have 2 openings and 2 appointees that we would like to approve tonight. So I will take a motion from the board to approve the budget appointment to the Budget Committee for Dave Dotterer and Serena Robinson.
Gladly move to appoint Dave Dotterer and Serena Robinson to our Budget Committee for the coming school year.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Next item is another action item. This is a request for the ballot title for the Youth Activities and Academics Levy. So in preparation for renewing the YAL, the board will direct staff to prepare and submit Form SEL 805 to the Jackson County Elections Office. So we had already discussed that, and I think there was one minor change in the wording that we wanted to make to take out up to and just make it that amount. So I will take a motion to submit that to the Elections Board.
I move to authorize Superintendent Hattrick to prepare and submit a request for ballot title for the Youth Activities and Academic Levy for the May 19th, 2026 elections.
I second.
All in favor? Yay. Okay. Okay. And next action item, we are discussing a potential change for location of work sessions. So the proposal was made that we now have our work sessions in person. That would be at the district office conference room rather than only via Zoom. We would still offer a Zoom option for those who, for convenience or any other issue, we prefer to participate via Zoom. So I will take a motion to change our work session location at this time.
I move to change our work session location to the district office.
I'll second. Yeah.
All in favor? Okay, so we will be seeing each other more frequently. Very nice. Okay, and that brings us to announcements and appointments. The board will hold a work session at the DO, right? Or are we still, is that last one on Zoom? Okay. Thursday, February 26, 2026 at 6:30. So that will be at the district office with a Zoom option. Our next regular session will be Thursday, March 12th, 2026 at 6:30 here in City Council Chamber. Okay, and that concludes the open meeting. We will now be moving into executive session under ORS 1926602I to review and evaluate the performance of the chief executive officer or any other public officer, employee, or staff member unless the person whose performance is being reviewed and evaluated requests an open hearing. No. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations, April. I move to enter executive session.
Second.
All in favor? Just raise your hand. It's all good. Bye. We are now returning to open session. No decisions were made during executive session. And I now adjourn this meeting. Can stop recording.